You all know that I love The Legend of Zelda. Like, I love it. It's my favorite game series ever, tons of nostalgia. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to walk on this trail in the woods and I would fantasize about finding a hole in a tree or the ground only to check it out, fall in and land in some Alice in Wonderland-esque world, aka the middle of Hyrule Field. I would imagine my grandpa joining me. He was my Ocarina of Time partner when I was like 7, but he had all the strength and vigor of a young warrior. Once the confusion of where I was wore off, I'd venture into the nearest village, only to hear the locals mutter rumors about a knight named Link battling giant beasts and saving Princess Zelda. As I take a walk in the cozy yet eerie woods just outside of Kokiri Forest, I stumble across a massive creature that my 7-year-old self could never defeat. I stand there frozen, debating if I should stay put or make a run for it. As I sit there frozen, I suddenly hear a distant neigh, and the thumping steps of what could only be a horse. The thuds get closer and closer until suddenly, the steps evolve into an abrupt slide with the upheaval of dirt coming to a stop. I see the giant moblin tighten his grip on his spear and look past me. For no more than a split second, the forest was silent. Suddenly, directly behind me, I hear the sound of metal. I knew it could only be the sound of a sword sliding out of its sheath. I slowly turn around, and what I see, my brain refuses to believe. There stands my hero, the hero of time. I'm actually seeing him in the flesh here in Hyrule, and he's saving me. Yeah, did I say I love this series? That's legitimately something I imagined hundreds of times as a kid. The Zelda series was and still is an escape for me. So why the fuck did Elden Ring do Zelda better than Zelda? Hey there, all you spellcasting, you-dieting, vast world exploring compadres. Welcome to the Milky Donut. So if you haven't figured it out yet, boy do I feel bad for your girlfriend because you have some serious listening problems. Well, I love Zelda, so why does it feel like Elden Ring, a Souls game, gave me the experience I wanted so badly from Tears of the Kingdom? Well, let's get into it. In case you're new here, subscribe. I'll give a quick recap on my thoughts about the current state of the Zelda franchise, in particular Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not the hugest fan of the open world formula in the Zelda series. I prefer the classic linear Zelda formula. I don't believe restrictions are inherently a bad thing when done correctly, and I love dungeon crawling. And that's a very short answer. If you want to hear me go into all the reasons why I prefer it, just watch my Zelda is Dead video. That being said, I loved Breath of the Wild. I have well over 300 hours into my current playthrough, and that's not including the playtime I had on my original Switch when the game first launched. It was a huge breath of fresh air, no pun intended, and truly gave me a sense of exploration that I hadn't felt in a video game since playing Ocarina of Time when I was a kid. So to put it lightly, I had huge expectations for Tears of the Kingdom. I was so hyped for years. I defended this game tooth and nail from people saying it was just glorified DLC. And for the first 20 or so hours, it did live up to my hype. But the realization that it felt too familiar and huge yet somehow empty slowly crept in. And that was weird because I knew there was way more content put into this than what was in Breath of the Wild, so how did it feel emptier? Well, because additions or not, it was still the same Hyrule. The areas were huge but shallow and repetitive. The temples were still underwhelming and you could still cheat your way through them if you wanted to. I didn't play Elden Ring until after I played through Tears of the Kingdom. I had never played a Souls game, and to be honest, I was scared to. The extreme difficulty that this series was famous for always put me off from trying it. I should clarify here because I really don't think I have, and a lot of you think that I hate open world games. I don't. As a matter of fact, I love them. Skyrim is one of my top 5 games of all time, along with Red Dead Redemption. And one of the main reasons why Ocarina of Time captivated me so much as a kid was because at the time, that felt like an open world. We really hadn't been able to explore a world like that prior. Well, Elden Ring attracted me because of the open world nature, which previous games in the series didn't allow. You just had to be a savage and get good. I figured I could handle the difficulty of the game if it let me just avoid things and come back later when I was stronger and better at the game. Well, that's exactly what Elden Ring gave me. So, Tears of the Kingdom is open world and I was disappointed, yet Elden Ring is an open world and I was amazed. Why? Well, first off, I really had no expectations for Elden Ring. I didn't know the lore, I didn't know the previous Souls games, so I went in completely blind and just played the game for what it was. Tears of the Kingdom, however, I did have expectations for. I expected Nintendo to fix the dungeon issues that many people had problems with. I knew the lore, which the game either didn't care about or somehow forgot, and I'm not talking about old lore from old games. I mean the lore that Breath of the Wild brought to the series. Tears of the Kingdom almost ignores that game as if it's not the direct predecessor. But I honestly could have looked past that if the gameplay captivated me enough. Now, I will say the abilities you get are cool, and how they made them be able to work simultaneously with each other on Switch hardware still blows my mind, but that just wasn't enough to make the game feel like an entirely new experience for the entire span of my playthrough. Once you descend into the depths, it's intriguing for about 10 hours, and then you realize you've pretty much seen all of the depths. Same goes for the Sky Islands. Elden Ring, on the other hand, even bigger, yet somehow every location I discovered felt new and different. Not once did I feel like an area or dungeon repeated itself. The enemy variation was huge, and the difficulty made me genuinely stress when I unexpectedly stumbled across one. I mean, right when I thought I had explored most of the game and there couldn't possibly be more to the map, I stumbled across a little random elevator thinking it was just an entrance to another dungeon. Well, little did I know, I was about to discover an entire new world underground which blew my mind. The developers didn't even make the entrance a huge point of interest, they just let you find it by stumbling around, which makes the reveal so much more effective. Where Tears of the Kingdom felt massive and somewhat bare, Elden Ring felt even more massive and full of unique locations, surprises, weapons, armors, items, the list goes on. And although I feel both games are rather light on storytelling, Elden Ring excels in delivering its narrative in a subtle and engaging manner. The game follows a show-don't-tell approach to storytelling, which is a hallmark from From Software's design philosophy. Rather than delivering a straightforward narrative through cutscenes or dialogue, Elden Ring weaves its story through environmental details, item descriptions, and character interactions. This method encourages players to piece together the lore and history of the world, resulting in a more personal and immersive experience. The fragmented and often cryptic nature of the storytelling challenges players to actively engage with the game's world, creating a deeper connection to its lore. This, in my opinion, is the best way to tell a story in an open world game because it doesn't cause plot or timing contrivances. On the flip side, we have Tears of the Kingdom, who prefers to tell its story in somewhat of a half open world, half linear manner, which doesn't work in my opinion. No matter how far you are in the story, whether you found Zelda or not, the cutscenes don't change. So you'll finish a temple, talk to the spirit of the ancestor, and they'll go on and tell you the same thing that all the other spirits have told you almost word for word. Asking where Zelda could possibly be when you're literally standing there with the Master Sword that you got from Zelda, you just saw Zelda, and we know in-game Link isn't mute, the man can speak, so wouldn't he be like, oh yeah, I found her, she's a dragon now, and the Zelda people have been seeing is a puppet made by Ganondorf, so yeah, we're pretty much good from here, I got it. I don't know, it just doesn't feel cohesive to me. But where Elden Ring really triumphs over Tears of the Kingdom for me, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is its dungeons, and that's arguably the most Zelda aspect of Zelda games. So why does it feel like Elden Ring did them better? I still think the Zelda series is the king of dungeons and temples, giving us some of the best in the video game industry, but it's lost that in recent years, and one of the most striking aspects of the dungeons in Elden Ring is their atmosphere. Each dungeon is crafted to evoke a sense of mystery and uneasiness, often featuring unique visual and auditory elements that enhance immersion. The game's art design and environmental storytelling contribute to creating spaces that feel both alive and ancient. Whether it be haunting echoes in the subterranean catacombs or the eerie stillness of abandoned temples, the atmosphere in these dungeons enhances the player's sense of exploration and unease, making each dungeon feel like a meaningful part of the world. There's no shooting through the ceiling or building bridges to cross a gap. You just have to crawl your way through it as intended, often encountering unique enemies or even a surprise boss battle on the way. It's just really not even a competition. I believe Breath of the Wild is more on Elden Ring's level, even outperforming it in some aspects but underperforming it in others. And as I've mentioned, I believe returning to the same Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom was one of its biggest downfalls. We could have explored a different Hyrule half the size and it probably would have had a bigger sense of exploration. Although I think Elden Ring is a masterpiece, I wouldn't want to return to the same exact world for a second time for an entire sequel. But even with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, they added an entire new area that's damn near the size of some games' entire maps. But I honestly think Elden Ring did Zelda better in the specific case of Tears of the Kingdom. And I know they are not meant to be the same game, and I understand that they are not the same game. But there are many similarities that are worth comparing. I just never thought I'd have a game that wasn't Zelda scratch my Zelda itch. Tears of the Kingdom does have things that Elden Ring doesn't that I think are amazing, such as the Ultra Hand building mechanic. I had tons of fun with that, and the creativeness it spawns is nothing short of amazing. I mean, just look at some of the things that people that are way more creative than I am have built using it. The physics engine is truly insane. I just think its shortcomings overshadowed the positives, leaving an open opportunity for another game to swoop in and outdo it. But what's your opinion on these two games? Which do you prefer? Do you like both? Do you hate both? Let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I'm super curious to see how many people I make mad with this video because we're talking about the Zelda fandom and the Souls game fandom. which are both two of the most passionate fandoms in video game history. So hopefully I don't make too many people upset. I just think Elden Ring is an amazing game. I love Zelda. So I just thought it'd be an interesting comparison video to make and just give you guys my opinion on it. But yeah, if you appreciated this video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to the channel to become a guardian of the glaze, and I'll see you next time on the Milky Donut.